What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the NYG Blue Zone. It's your boy Atticus coming at you with another podcast. Today, I want to talk about, oh my God, there's just so much movement that's been happening in and around the Giants. I mean, in and around the league, the NFL, to be honest with you. And we're going to cover a bunch of those topics. Um, we've got Rookie of the Year nominees, two of them on our team. Unfortunately, we got some stuff to talk about with the Hall of Fame. We got a Super Bowl that's about to happen. I don't know that it's unlikely for both of these teams to be there, but in some ways it is. There's also some new coaches that we've hired, and a lot of coaches were let go, which I'm not really too mad at, but I thought Carmen Brasillo did enough to retain his position. So there's just a lot of stuff that we need to talk about today, including the fact that the front runner for the offensive coordinator position, Ted Monkin, was hired as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns today. So we're back to looking for an offensive coordinator, and I got no doubt that Coach Harbaugh is going to put the right person in the right place to fill that role. But it's news because that's something that is happening today. And, I want to start by talking a little bit about John Harbaugh as the head coach. And I can remember when it became clear that Brian Daboll was not going to, I didn't know he was going to get fired mid-season, but I knew that he was not going to be the head coach for very long, and the Giants were going to be looking to replace him. I did a show talking about who would the Giants look at to replace Brian Daboll. And this might have been around week 9 or somewhere around there, just before Brian Daboll was fired, or just after he was fired, pardon me. And one of the names that came up was Coach Harbaugh. And I said in that podcast that if he became available, the Giants have to do whatever they can to get him, to acquire him, to lure him to be the next head coach of the Giants. And I do think it took a little bit of convincing, but I think that when you look at the roster that's been assembled, some of the players that give you a good feeling that, or gives a head coach the feeling that, okay, I don't have to search for a franchise quarterback. We got really good pieces on defense. We have good running backs. We've got a good tight end room. A couple of things we need to do to improve our secondary and our middle linebacker position, and maybe a little bit on the offensive defensive line. But you don't have a whole truckload of changes that you have to make. I think that the roster was attractive enough. In addition to that, I think that the way his contract was structured, where he doesn't really have to worry about any impediments that the general manager might present, it made it very appealing. Not to mention how much they paid him, because the guy got paid, right? So he's got a lot of control over the team, over the roster. He's got a lot of pieces already in place, so he doesn't have to do a whole lot of digging. I couldn't imagine him coming in here at 63 and needing 2 years, 3 years to build the team when he could probably do it in a year and a half, given some of the pieces that he's already got in place. And when you look at what he's already done, the guy has already shown he knows how to produce winning football. He's already shown that he knows how to build a winning culture. If you just look at his introductory press conference, and if they gave awards for that, oh my God, he would have knocked it out the park and he wouldn't have had any competition, right? I mean, the things that he has shown us without us having anything tangible yet from a player perspective, from a culture perspective, and how that translates into the player's effort on the field, I've already got a really good feeling. I think most of us, in fact, I don't know that you could find a Giants fan who is not happy with this hire. So there's a lot to be excited about with John Harbaugh coming in and taking the reins. So there's things that he has done so far, and I think a lot of us will just give credit to his, or we're looking to his prior experience and winning ways to endorse some of the moves that he's made, even though we may not understand why. Specifically, I'm talking about Carmen Brasillo, who came in and inherited an offensive line that was absolutely atrocious. And he made a lot of good things happen with some parts that were subpar and a lot of injuries that he's had to deal with. And finally, when you look at some of the moves that have been made with VGR, with Illuminor, with even John Michael Schmitz has improved his game, even though I think Schlottman, they're interchangeable. I think that he's done good. He's done a good enough job. And he's improved because he wasn't looking really good. And Bo was drafted and has, in my opinion, even though PFF will tell you that Bo has not played well, he passes the eye test. We did not fall off a cliff during Andrew Thomas's absence. We did not have any position on that offensive line that looked like a turnstile. Granted, there were some situations where things did break down, but we watched an incredible improvement on that line this year. I think the worst thing we saw was maybe in week 1, where we had 4 just terrible offensive line play when Andrew Thomas wasn't yet quite ready to play. I can't think of the guy's name who was in there in the left tackle position, but he had to be benched, and Bo came in and he played fairly well, for the remainder of that game. So in fact, the Giants still ended up scoring on that opening drive, which was pretty cool to see. So I think that Carmen Brasillo being relieved of his duties was a bit of a shock, but I'm going to just trust that Coach Harbaugh knows what he's doing. So he knows how to manage a locker room. He knows how to manage a team. I think that some Ravens fans would say that his clock management, his ability to finish, they became weary of that, and they wanted to see somebody who brought a better opportunity to finish games. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens has brought in Jesse Minter as their head coach, which I'm a big Jesse Minter guy. I think that he was really good in Los Angeles with the Chargers, and I think he may be a little bit underrated for those who don't follow coordinators and know how good he actually was. But he had the Chargers defense leading in the top 5 in many statistical categories, and I think that's part of the reason why he got the job in Baltimore. So I think that John Harbaugh, in addition to letting Carmen Brasillo go, he let go a lot of other coaches, which I think needed to happen. He even let go of Kevin Abrams, who 27-year veteran with the New York Giants in the front office. And if you're going to come in and you're the new guy, you want to bring in some new eyes. And that's what he has done. And he did it pretty quickly. He first started by interviewing existing coaches and assistants to see who he wanted to retain. He liked Tim Kelly, who was the tight ends coach, who was the interim offensive coordinator. And he also liked Charlie Bullen. And honestly, I didn't know how good Charlie Bullen was until Shane Bowen was terminated and he started to fill that role as an interim DC. And I thought he did extremely well. But he's not going to be in the same role he was as the defensive coordinator, because another thing John Harbaugh did was hired Denard Wilson. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Denard Wilson was looked at before Shane Bowen became our defensive coordinator. And the irony is Shane Bowen came from the Tennessee Titans and Denard Wilson was hired by the Tennessee Titans as their DC. It's kind of funny how these things sometimes unfold. Now, while Denard Wilson was in Tennessee, you're not going to see some smash mouth, unbelievable, knock it out the park defense that he had. And part of the reason was he didn't have much to work with out there. He did have Jahad Ward out there humming, and Jahad Ward, I don't know if you guys remember when he played under Wink for the Giants, he was one of the fan favorites. He went out there and he put it all on the field. Now, he wasn't the great pass rusher. He wasn't a great run blocker, but he gave you effort every time. And he was one of those energy guys, just high energy guys. So John Ward had a really good couple of seasons with the Tennessee Titans. He had 5.5 sacks or something like that last year. He had a very high pressure rate against the quarterback. So he was still effective as an edge rusher with that team on a fairly bad defense. So I think with Denard Wilson, when he comes in and some of the pieces that are already in place on defense, he can probably do well. And there's a connection with Denard Wilson and John Harbaugh. He used to be, I think he was the secondaries, the cornerback coach or something like that with the Ravens before he landed the job with Tennessee. So there's a relationship there to draw from. So I think he's going to be okay. I don't know. I don't have lofty expectations for him because I honestly did not watch enough of what he did with players. And I'm real big on player development. I want to see how players improve under you, in addition to players that you already have that are performing at a high level, not regressing. And I want to see that he's able to do that. And I do believe that the Coach Harbaugh way is all about teaching and development as well. So I think that that is going to be a component of what we see with Denard Wilson. I also think that that's probably one of the reasons why he brought him on. Chris Horton was also hired by Coach Harbaugh to work as the assistant head coach and special teams coordinator. I don't have enough information about Chris Horton to say whether or not I like or dislike this. This is, again, one of those situations where I'm just going to rely on the reputation that Coach Harbaugh has, what brought him to be the head coach of the Giants, and say he knows how to identify the teachers, coaches, assistants that are going to help him to achieve his goals. And if he saw something in Chris Horton that said, hey, that's my guy, then I'm just going to have to roll with that. If Chris Horton is going to be our special teams coordinator, and we saw how our special teams cost us probably 2 games this year, I hope we see some improvement in that regard. So I'm going to give him that one. There's some familiarity with these two guys, and the familiarity, I think, leads to a level of trust that John Harbaugh has. I think that because they know what John Harbaugh expects, there's not going to be a steep learning curve or the cohesion that you want to see amongst the coaching staff, because they already got an idea of who he is and what he wants. So they understand his standards, right? And I think that the standard that John Harbaugh brings to the Giants is one that's not going to tolerate or make room or excuses for a lack of effort, accountability, or solid play. So these are installs. These aren't patch jobs. These are people that the experience that Harbaugh has with them is what he believes is going to help to propel the Giants to the next level. So another thing that I thought was really interesting, and it answered a lot of questions for a lot of people, because it's been widely documented that John Harbaugh was really looking to Ted Monkin as the front runner for his offensive coordinator position. And now we know why that hire didn't happen, because Monken was just hired today by the Cleveland Browns to be their new head coach. And I think the Browns just made a good hire because Monken did a fabulous job with the offense in Baltimore, at least for a few years. Now, we saw some injuries that kind of derailed their offense and had them in a position where they just weren't able to win as many games. But we also saw that offense look unstoppable 2 years ago. I don't know if you guys remember this, but 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that Baltimore offense was cooking. They looked unstoppable. The only thing that could stop Baltimore, in fact, was Baltimore. And for whatever reason, they short-circuited down the stretch and just couldn't put together the games they needed to win when it counted the most. But they were ending up with 14-3 seasons, 15-2 seasons, 13-4 seasons. I mean, just constantly producing in a top five in every statistical category that mattered. And that was Monken's offense. So I think with some of the pieces that Cleveland has defensively, when you bring a solid offensive mind into that program, they're probably going to look pretty good. But where does that leave us, right? That leaves us with a huge opening for an offensive coordinator. I know that there are a lot of people who were questioning whether Monken would be the guy. And you got to understand, the familiarity that John Harbaugh had with him and knowing what he wanted to do to fill out his coaching staff is why he wanted this guy. There's something to be said about knowing who you're working with and knowing you can trust them in situations. So I get it, right? But there's some other names out there that now he's got to take a look at. Greg Roman is one of the names that comes to mind. He's the most obvious guy that John Harbaugh is probably going to look at next because, again, he's got experience working with him. Like, he can immediately assimilate into the Harbaugh system. And it's not even something that will feel unnatural. It will just organically happen because of the familiarity that they have. He trusts the guy because they know each other and what each other wants to see, and he's a good offensive mind. And that's what you want to bring when you have so many budding talents on this offense with a Malik Neighbors. You got Wan'Dale Robinson just generating 1,000-yard season. We have a really good running back room as far as I'm concerned. The tight ends are really good. Now, they need to improve on catching and their technique, but I think that they're going to be good. What he does with this offensive line and who he's going to have lead these guys and improve on their technique to make sure that they continue to protect the quarterback, that's going to be critical too. And I know that's one of the things at the top of Harbaugh's list because you've got your guy at the quarterback position and you don't want him to get hurt. So I know that that's important to John Harbaugh. But I think Greg Roman is a name that he might look at. T. Martin is another one. He's worked in Baltimore as well. I don't know that he's going to be, you never know with John Harbaugh who he's going to select because I honestly, when he made the announcement that he was hiring Denard Wilson as his defensive coordinator, I did not see that one coming. I thought he was going to look for a more polished name, a more experienced guy, but he hired who he had experience with. So when you bring up a T. Martin, this is somebody, again, that he's got experience with. You might see that name come to bear. A couple of other names, Davis Webb, Willie Target. Davis Webb, we know he's a former New York Giant. He's been on a fast track to getting an NFL coaching job right now. I think he's the passing game coordinator. I forget which team he's on, but he's the passing game coordinator, and he has developed, or he is constantly getting interviews because you can see he's got a football coaching mind. He had that while he was a backup quarterback in New York. So he's definitely a name to consider. And then there's some other guys that, I kind of like Cliff Kingsbury, but I don't think Cliff Kingsbury, he follows the same type of philosophy that you're looking for from John Harbaugh. But I wouldn't be surprised either if he gets a call. He'll probably be interviewed. Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to get an interview. Yeah, and then what's this other guy's name? Nate Scalassi. I can't even pronounce his name correctly. But that's a name that has come up also in some of the articles that I've read. Whoever gets this job is not going to be bringing their offense. They're going to be running John Harbaugh's offense. And John Harbaugh's offense, we've seen, because it's had the Ted Monkin factor baked into it, it can do some damage. And the Giants were scoring about 24 points a game last year, which is a huge improvement of anywhere they have been over the past several years. So you got a good floor that you're working with. We don't know what the ceiling is yet, but our starting point, our floor level is pretty good. So there's also a couple of players that the Giants have signed. They signed DeMarvin Leal. He's a defensive lineman to a reserves futures contract. I mean, he's the first reported player to be added to the Harbaugh group of players. So we'll see what happens with that. He's going to add some depth. obviously he's going to have to compete for the job, but it's the first name of a player that has been brought in under the Harbaugh era. Also, there's some storylines that I just can't. So, Eli Manning, and I've done I don't know how many shows now talking about the Hall of Fame and why Eli Manning deserves to be in there. He is not going to the Hall of Fame this year. It was announced today that he missed out. It was also announced that, an even bigger surprise, that Bill Belichick is not going in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know who is more deserving as a head coach than a head coach that brought, what was it, 5 or 6 Super Bowls to the New England Patriots. He also has a couple of Super Bowls with the New York Giants. How is he not first ballot Hall of Famer? It blows my mind. It blows my mind. It really makes me, or calls into question, who the hell are the people who are deciding who gets in and who does not? And the whole judging rating system, it needs to be changed if Bill Belichick isn't a first round Hall of Fame coach. It doesn't make any sense. You can't even find the words to string together to form a sentence to make Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer make any sense. You can't do it. It's not possible. It's not possible. But this is what happened in this class of Hall of Fame cap. Now, this isn't to say that those who are going in aren't deserving. This isn't to say that at all. But it is to say that, how did he get snubbed? And how many times does Eli Manning, who gave you 2 of the most incredible Super Bowl journeys imaginable, in fact, you can't talk about the most exciting Super Bowls in NFL history without bringing up at least one of the Super Bowls that Eli Manning delivered. You can't do it. But that happened. So that hits Giants fans hard. That hits the Manning family pretty hard. I mean, they will never admit it, but it does. And then Bill Belichick is just like, it's unfathomable. I can't believe it. So it doesn't, be honest with you, Giants fans already know. Hall of Fame say what the fuck they want. Eli Manning is in the Mount Rushmore of Giants players who are the best in Giants history. Period. But the league itself, the Hall of Fame, I don't know what's happening there. Something is kind of weird. Speaking of quarterbacks, isn't it funny? Maybe not funny, but Tommy DeVito, former New York Football Giants backup quarterback, is going to the Super Bowl as a member of the New England Patriots. That is so hilarious. And if somehow he finds himself on a field and he doesn't execute the play that the New England Patriots needs to win a game and they lose, we can say the Giants caused the Patriots to lose 3 Super Bowls. I don't know about y'all, but fuck the Patriots. If I'm going to root for anybody in this Super Bowl, it's going to be the Seattle Seahawks. And there are layers of reasons why, which is unnecessary for me to get into, but fuck the Patriots. Fuck everything about the Patriots. Go Seattle. Go Hawks. Right? Go Hawks. Yeah, get one for Russ. Right? So, and how about it for Sam Darnold? We wrote him off for real. Geno Smith talked about we wrote him off and he ain't right back. Listen, it looked like the Seattle Seahawks was right for moving on from him and bringing in Sam Darnold. And you got a couple of Giants over there. Leonard Williams, go ahead, big cat, do your thing. Julian Love, go ahead, man, do your thing. A couple of Giants out there doing big things, going to the bowl. I hope they get a ring. I support them. Once a Giant, always a Giant, right? So go ahead and do your thing. I'm all about it. So Where does that leave the Giants? Got the Super Bowl. We talked about that a little bit. Talked about Tommy DeVito. That's so funny. But, I got to tell you, man, as a lifelong Giants fan, I'm feeling pretty good about our future. I don't know who our offensive coordinator is going to be yet. It really don't matter. I think they're going to get it right. I don't know who we're going to pick up in free agency, but it really don't matter right now. I have no clue who Joe Shane and John Harbaugh are going to agree upon, or if they're going to trade back, but who they're going to agree upon for that 5th pick in the draft. If I had my choice, Carnell Tate, bring it on, right? I don't know. I think they're going to fill some much-needed holes on defense through free agency like they did last year, and I think that they're going to look for some offensive talent through the draft. I do think they need to get another piece or two for that offensive line, but I like how our offensive line has performed over the past year, this past season anyway, and I'd like to see that continue. So I think we got the right coaches in place. I do think that we need to truly work on developing our players to ensure that they aren't regressing, that they are who we made these financial and draft pick investments on, and that we can get the very most out of them. And I think we got the right coaching staff to do that. John Harbaugh didn't come here to stabilize. He came here to install a winning program, with the staff hires, the offensive coordinator search, the early roster moves. They all point in the same direction. This offseason, it is not going to be about a splash. It's going to be about our future identity, who we are going to be moving forward. When you think Giants, you're going to think them motherfuckers came to play. That's who we are. That's what we're going to put on the field. And I'm excited for it. So if you like the content, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. So every time we put out something new, you're one of the first ones to be notified. I'm excited about the future. I want to see the Seahawks beat the brakes off the New England Patriots. I really do, and I think they can. They've been pretty impressive. But I'm excited about the future for the New York Giants. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you like what I had to say, if you don't like what I had to say, let me know what you think about what we brought to you today. Go Big Blue.
Yeah, a lot of girls probably crying from my old high school. Look, they see me everywhere they go. I probably would too. Look, crossed over to the Jordan men like I'm Michael. Yeah, eating blessings so much I might need lipo. Yeah, tailored for the doves like I'm walking in chucks. Yeah, it's just in this plan, man, I see all y'all shook. Look, knew that I was great ever since I was a rook. Man, all y'all singles making me look good. Okay, praise to the Most High, yeah, that's Jesus. Look, but when it come to this rap thing, I can't lose. Yeah, back-to-back number ones, that's a thing greats do. Yeah, tell them boys that ain't nothing I can't do. It's my year. It's my year.